Om Tyageshwaram Ramakrishnam Saradam Matrarupinim Vivekanandamacharyam Natva Vakshami Shuddhi. We have been discussing Narada's list, so to say, of various means that help us grow in spiritual life, that help us strengthen our devotion. First he said, Tattva Vishaya Tyagat Sangat Tyagat. So keep a distance between yourself and the entities that have the power to distract you. And also when you are not in vicinity of such entities, Sangat Tyaga, don't harp on those entities. And certain situations we cannot avoid. So find a way to insulate yourself from being distracted. So avyavritta bhajanat. And along with that, we have to keep on chanting the name of the Lord. When we cannot avoid company of distracting entities, association with distracting entities. So Bhagavad Guna Shravana Kirtanat. Keep on chanting, listening to the glories of the Lord. That was Narada's way of telling us how to insulate ourselves. And as we discussed, there could be other ways and means. Having told all that, then he came to another chief, so to say, aid to strengthen our devotion. Mukhyatastu Mahat Kripaya eva Bhagavat Kripa Leshadva. So he said, this is all right. Vishetyaga, Sangatyaga, Vyavritta Bhajana, Bhagavad Guna Shravana Kirtana, all this is all right. But Mukhyatastu, mainly, you will benefit greatly by Mahat Kripa. That is Kripa of the holy ones. Or a fraction of God's grace. He has given option. Either you should be able to receive the grace of the holy ones or a fraction of God's grace is enough. Looking at the two options, we are tempted. Okay, it's easier to get grace of holy ones than wait for God's grace. So Narada says, Mahat Sangastu Durlabho Agamyo Amoghascha. To get the grace of holy ones, we have to seek their company. Mahat Sangha. And he says, Mahat Sangha is Durlabha. It is rare. It is difficult to get holy men and or women and their company. It is Durlabha. It is Durlabha we can understand because, holy men are very few. Holy persons are very few. Secondly, they don't advertise themselves. They don't put a banner around them and say, I am a God-realized person. They don't do that. And we also are not competent enough to recognize a holy man or woman. So it is Durlava, no doubt. It's Agamya. How that grace of holy ones works, we do not know. But it is infallible, Amogha. If we somehow make ourselves recipient of the grace of the holy ones, it can never fail. Then how to get it? He says, Labhyate tat kripaya eva. You get the grace of holy ones by their mercy alone, by their kripa alone. Lastly, he says, Tasmin tajjane bheda bhavat. That is where he kind of compares the two to be same. He says there is no difference between God and his devotees. Tajjana is devotees of God. So there is no difference. Basically he is saying either of the two are fine. Either you get the company and grace of holy persons or you get grace of God. Your work will be done. So what we have to understand is there are two things. One is the compassion in the holy men and women and the redeeming power. The power to redeem, the power to uplift us spiritually. Both these principally belong to God alone. No jiva can seriously have compassion. Compassion belongs only to God. nor can any jiva have redeeming power, the power to redeem another soul. That also belongs only to God. So if these two powers are manifest in any person, their source has to be God alone. So it is only the God's mercy, God's grace that flows through holy men and women, that flows through holy persons and riches. So the two are same. And hence the characteristics, they apply to both. Both are equally durlabha. They are difficult to get. They are agamya, inscrutable in their workings, and amogha, infallible. He has compared the two. So how do we get it? If they are durlabha, how do we get it? That one question comes. One thing is, if simple company of holy men and women is not enough, we should seek from them something. So many people live around holy men and women. We don't see their lives changing in any big way. Whereas a sincere seeker comes just for a few minutes and his or her life is changed. So mere company is not enough. We should approach with that earnestness, with that eagerness, with that humility. Should serve them. And then only shall we get the benefit of their company. So mere company is not enough. We should have that earnestness and seeking attitude of learning that should be there. Then only we will be benefited by the company of the holy. But as I said, both are equally difficult. The company of holy as well as God's grace, both are durlabha. Narada here has touched upon a, so to say, debate or whatever you call it in religious and spiritual life, spiritual studies and discussions, the debate about the self-effort and divine grace. Narada talks about Vishayatyaga, Sangatyaga, Avyavritta Bhajana, Bhagavad Guna Shravana Kirtana. All these are in the realm of self-effort. We undertake all these out of our free will and we put efforts. So these are in the realm of self-effort. So he tells that. And then he says that is not enough, or mainly your spiritual life will blossom only by grace of God, either directly or coming through holy ones, either way. So which of these two, what is the equation between these two? I said there is a debate in the sense that those who are the proponents of self-effort, they say that even divine grace is nothing but the result of self-effort. You put self-effort, as a result, you get divine grace. So divine grace is a law of karma working, so to say. But we accept that position, there is a flaw in that, in the sense that if you say it is the result of the effort, then what is the price? You have to put some price to it. You say how much of japa, how much of meditation, how much of puja I have to do. If it's a result, then there has to be some mathematics in it. And secondly, this will, so to say, nullify the very concept of grace. Because grace is supposed to be unconditional. If it is going to be the result, then it no more remains unconditional and no more remains the grace. So that is one, these are a couple of issues raised against this argument that divine grace is nothing but a result of self-effort, working within the realm of law of karma. The other side says, no, divine grace is everything. Even your self-effort is a result of divine grace. Because there is divine grace, you have the energy or the inclination and the direction to undertake self-effort. So divine grace is everything. That argument also has its flaws in the sense that then why not all people strive? Why not all people become spiritual? And what is the criteria for grace of God to descend upon human beings? if there is no rationale in it, then God, who is so methodically taking care of this entire creation and the karma flows of innumerable souls, how could that power be irrational or, so to say, whimsical or without any logic, while bestowing the most precious of gifts called the divine grace? So if we say there is no connection between self-effort and divine grace, then irrationality, illogicality, these flaws come in. Both sides have their flaws. In this matter, one point is clear. Both sides accept that divine grace is absolutely necessary. Even Bhagwan Shankaracharya will accept that to get spiritual realization, divine grace is mandatory. Without that, spiritual realization is not possible. That is a given kind of thing. There could be some far extremes who will say that divine grace is not necessary at all. But Bhagwan Shankaracharya has accepted. Generally, the Jnana Margits lay stress on self-effort, and those who are followers of Bhakti Marga, they lay stress on divine grace. So, even a Jnani like Bhagwan Shankaracharya, he accepts that divine grace is necessary. How to get it? If you say it is the result of self-effort, then it becomes within the law of karma, and we have to put a price to it. And it ceases to be grace, ceases to be unconditional. So a reasonable solution, acceptable solution is this. In a sense, it is connected to self-effort, no doubt about it. But there is no price as to how much of self-effort we have to put in terms of quantity. But through self-effort, when the seeker exhausts himself or herself, almost extinguishes himself or herself, it is then that divine grace will flow into that heart. If at all we have to put a price, this is the price. Exhaust yourself to the point of extinction in putting self-effort. And then divine grace will flow into our heart. It is like a room, it's dark, not because it is dark outside, but because the windows are closed. There is sunlight outside, available, unconditionally. But I have closed the room so it is not flooding in. When I open the doors and windows, I am not creating sunlight. So sunlight is not the result, is not the effect of my opening the doors. But the room gets lit only when I open the doors. The unconditional sunlight that is outside, it floods in. So in that sense, lighting of my room depends on my effort. But the sunlight doesn't depend on my effort. I don't create sunlight. It is always there, available. So this is how it can be. A reasonable, understandable solution could be this. The other party, or if you accept that grace is really unconditional, assuming that we can still somehow prove that it is rational, when it descends on us, we should be in a position to receive it. If we are not putting any self-effort, we won't be able to be in a position to receive that grace. So when the door opens, we have to be there at the door, waiting for the door to open. Then only that opening of door will help us. If we are not there, even if door opens, we won't be benefited by that. Hence, self-effort is necessary in all situations. And grace remains unconditional. Grace is mandatory. Without that, we cannot have genuine spiritual growth. So this is more or less the discussion about self-effort and divine grace. Both are necessary. Narada also has struck a balance. He says you have to put your self-effort. But remember that your self-effort are not going to take you anywhere. No amount of self-effort can be quantified that you will get God's grace or realization through those. But if we exhaust ourselves in self-effort, God is bound to manifest in our heart through His grace. That is one point. So having said this, Narada is going to the next topic where he says, Dussangaha sarvathaiva tyajyaha. So this is in Ayurveda what is called patya. What is to be avoided? What is to be avoided, he tells that. Dussangaha sarvathaiva tyajyaha. We have to give up in every possible way, sarvatha, dussangaha, that is evil company. Evil company has to be given up in all possible ways. Why? He gives a long list. Kama, krodha, moha, smrti bhramsha, buddhinasha, sarvanasha, karanatvat. He says this dussanga, or company of the evil, that will give rise to passions, anger, delusion. These three drives, they will lead to smriti bhramsha. Smriti bhramsha is forgetfulness, loss of memory. Loss of memory in terms of what is the purpose of our life, what is the highest achievement possible in this human life, what is our duty. Forgetfulness about God. All this is part of smriti bhramsha. Then buddhinasha, the discrimination between right and wrong, true and false, buddhinasha. And then sarvanasha, destruction. Destruction in spiritual sense, not in physical sense. In spiritual sense, in moral sense, there will be destruction. So this is the reason why he says we have to give up evil company. See, evil company comes in many forms. There could be persons who are always talking about the whole life centered around money and enjoyment. They, so to say, spread that worldliness, always thinking about that. The whole character is seeped in worldliness, always thinking, talking about that. Or it could be objects, it could be books. We read some books, or audio visual nowadays. Any entity that incites the lower passions in us is evil company. Any entity that incites lower passions in us is evil company. And it has to be shunned in every possible way. Why? Because it will give rise to all the negative drives in our heart. And in Narada, in the third sutra, he takes up, he tells how this evil company works. He says, Taranga ita api me sangat samudrayante. See, even seekers have kama, krodha, moha. Till we have reached spiritual illumination, these will be there. Desires will be there, anger will be there, confusion, but they will be in the form of ripples, so to say, in very weak form. If they come, we neglect. We say, let it go, let it pass. It will pass away. Or we discriminate, depending on how we want to deal. We will discriminate and nullify. Or we will be udasina, will be neutral and let those pass. A spiritual seeker will have these. It is not possible for an ordinary human who has not attained to spiritual illumination to not to have kama, krodha, moha. These will be there. These will come. We should treat them as ripples. They are not very strong. We either fight them or neglect them, whatever. But he says, which are like ripples now, manageable, so to say. Presently they are manageable. Through whatever our technique is, it's personal, our technique. But sangat means dussangat. By company of the evil, these ripples will become samudrayante. They will become like ocean, having the capacity to drown us. Like huge waves in the ocean. Ripples will turn into huge waves, mighty waves of the ocean with the capacity to drown us. That is what the unholy company will do. That is what the evil company will do. Whatever negative passions we have, base passions we have, all these will be brought out with full force in the company of the evil. And that is why this company of the evil has to be avoided in every possible way. See, in the name of unwinding means whole day we are under pressure, work, tension, responsibilities. End of the day, in the name of relaxation, there is temptation. One might have the temptation to get into relaxation mode, and then you don't know what kind of relaxation we will get into. So we have to be careful. That is one of the ways people fall into evil company. Evil company need not necessarily mean, as I said, company of evil people. Evil environments. Any environment that incites lower passions in us, it is evil company. So we have to be careful. In the name of relaxation, we shouldn't even venture into that. We are not strong enough to raise the evil people. We should know that. It is only the Mahatmas who have that power to raise evil persons. We don't have that power. We need to protect ourselves. So one need not assume the air that I will transform, I will reform evil persons. They will drag us down. So we have to maintain our distance. Everyone is God, no doubt. Sri Ramakrishna says, there is some water which can be used for drinking, another cannot be used for drinking. Only you can wash clothes in that water. So God is everywhere. In the name of reforming people, there is no need for us to interact with evil people voluntarily. It is not our job. It is the job of the Mahatmas. In the name of relaxation, we have to be careful. It's nerve inciting relaxation. It is no relaxation at all. So we have to be careful. At the same time, there are certain situations we cannot avoid this evil company. That's also a fact of life. We have to work, we have to interact with people. All kinds of people will come. We cannot completely shun people. So that is the time when we have to be careful. We have to pray to God. That's the only source of strength that we have. We have to pray to God to protect us. And so there one Swamiji used to tell a maxim, so to say. So maximum distance, minimum contact. The maximum distance, minimum contact. That is what we follow when we have to necessarily interact with extreme